everyone to the September 12th session of the Winchester Planning Board. We are being recorded both via Zoom and via WinCam. If you do not wish to appear on the recording, please make sure to turn off your video and mute yourself. We have implemented our Zoom bombing protocols, namely, if you wish to speak, you're going to have to raise your hand so that we can unmute you. And Taylor, if you could make each in co-host, I think you already have. Thank you. So why don't we do a roll call vote? We do have a quorum. Carrie Layton?
Present.
Where are you, Nick? There you are. Nick Rosettos?
Present.
Sally Dale?
Present.
Ching Scott?
Connecting to audio, it says.
Okay, we will wait for Ching. I will say that I am present. Juris, I suppose I should put my name. Ching, we're still not. Oh, we got your video, but we don't have your audio yet.
Are you taking attendance?
Yes.
Present.
Okay, excellent. We're also joined this evening with by our recording secretary, Nancy Placari, and of course, Taylor Herman, our town planner, and also WinCam. Thank you, WinCam. So why don't we jump right to it? Taylor, if you could pop up the agenda. So we have, I won't go through this because we're a bit late. Do we have any meeting updates? I think the update that I wanted to bring up is that the town has received monies to hire a consultant for housing production plan. And also the town has also received monies to it's part of ARPA, but I'm not sure it's one of the economic recovery plans. They've received money to hire as a consultant an economic development person for $150,000. So both of those, I believe, are housing production plan is ongoing. I'm sorry. They will need to do an RFP for the economic development person. So if there is someone from this board who would like to help out with that task, please let me know and I can pass your name on to the town manager who's forming a committee to write the RFP. And there will, I think, be a housing production plan working group setting up. And so that will also require input from this board. So we're going to be looking for someone from this board to help out on that as well. So if you're interested, please let Taylor know. He'll gather the names and we'll pass them on to the town manager. Both of these are fairly important, so it would be good to have two people from the planning board on both of those in both those endeavors. Anything else? Any other updates?
I met with the historical commission, or attended their meeting yesterday, and they're seeking a meeting, I guess, with the planning board, or at least they want to be up to speed on the MBTA 3A. And also, I just want to make sure that we're moving forward with figuring out how to implement the changes that Carrie and I came up with on the maps, because that'll be important to me. So I want to just keep that on the burner. I want to, continue to be engaged in that regard, and just make sure that we have a little bit of time to talk about MBTA 3A at each meeting.
Yeah, so we are having a kickoff meeting with our consultants tomorrow to start organizing things. We're still working out the contract with them. There's a couple of questions left, so that is I guess we'll be meeting tomorrow without them under contract. But yeah, so as soon as they're on board, we will start having meetings with them to move this forward. Any other updates? If not, why don't we move on to the meeting minutes? We have got 2 meeting minutes. Let's see. First one is for Tuesday, August 22nd. Are there any comments or amendments?
I had a comment on page 2.
Okay,
I think it's really simple. Just in the planning board discussion towards the top of the page, the 1, 2, 3, 4th bullet, no, 5th bullet. That Matt Schuman would say that the fire department and consultant will review the fire issues, just to clarify that it's in process.
okay.
And I don't think, I did have edits about the goals, but I don't, it's just gonna take a lot of time in this meeting. It would be great to take the project list and republish it so that when you correlate the goals draft from earlier this year with this minutes of this meeting, we have an updated document.
Okay, but is that something that you want to amend the minutes for?
Well, so like on the top of page 5 where it says done, done projects or close to done, project number 3 ADU bylaw, you could say in process, well, it is close to done. And then 87, 89, I guess you could say is close to done. And project 10, Mount Vernon Street is,
But is this something that should change the minutes?
no, let's not do that. Except for project 11, I think it's called Historic District Committee, if I'm not mistaken. Other than that, oh, and also that there was a discussion about 4.5 waiver projects. So let's take it up offline. I have no other edits. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Okay, no, I just,
Yep, good.
if there are further edits that you'd like to make, then we can postpone voting on this until you make the further edits.
Okay, let's do that.
Okay,
Should I put my edits out now?
Yes.
Before we postpone, or just, are we postponing?
why don't we,
Well, I'd
Why
like
don't
to
we
hear
just post-
Ethan's edits.
Okay, so page 2, bullet point 2, did Tool review any of the previous agreements involving this project? I think specifically it was about the select board approved renegotiation, if they approved that, or if they reviewed that. So that was my edit. And following these bullet points, I remember you saying, Deb, that the Q&A would be posted on the planning board site for this project.
Yes.
So I think that would be an important thing to insert here.
Oh, it's not in the, yes, and I don't know where we're on it, where, at what stage we are on that, but yeah.
Okay, that's it.
Okay, so if you could send your edits to Nancy,
Okay,
and if you have substantial edits, Sally, if you could
Yeah,
So-
I'll send something to you.
send it to the board so that we'll have it for the
Okay.
next meeting to discuss.
Yes.
Any
I'll do
other, okay, so why don't we move on to the next one, please? So these are the minutes for Tuesday, August 30th, 2023. Any concerns or amendments?
I have
none
no-
for me.
Okay. Could I get a motion to approve the minutes of Tuesday, August 30th, 2023?
I'll move it.
Is there a second?
The second.
Okay, roll call vote. Nick,
Aye.
Carrie,
Aye.
Sally,
Aye.
I Ching,
Aye.
and I say aye as well. Thank you very much. I think those are the only two. So let us, we have a hearing starting at 7:30. So we have 3 minutes. Let's make sure that we have. Oh, I'd like to welcome Brian Manter, Assistant Town Engineer. Taylor, could you make Brian co-host, please? Okay, cool. So we are 2 minutes shy of opening, but why don't we just go ahead and could I get a vote to open? Oh, wait, we don't have town council here. Oh, I'm expecting town council to show up for this. Anyway, could I get a vote to open up the continued hearing on the Waterfield project?
So moved.
And is there a second?
Second.
Okay, why don't we do a roll call vote? I Ching,
Aye.
Sally,
Aye.
Nick,
Aye.
Carrie.
Aye.
I say aye as well. Okay, great. Welcome everyone to our continued hearing on the Waterfield CB number 18. So just a brief recap of where we're at. We just received the money to put in escrow to pay for the 253G consultants that we approved at the last meeting. So things are a bit delayed in the schedule. I assume they will start working as soon as possible. We are having difficulties finding, we had been having difficulties finding someone to do the design review. And we ended up reaching out. Taylor, I know that we reached out to Dennis Carlone. Did you have a chance? Did you reach out to I think that's it, right?
Well, in total, we've reached out to 9 individuals and firms, all but Dennis Carlone has declined our offer to at least learn more about the peer review.
What would we need to do to get Dennis to agree to do it? What's he looking for?
I think he's interested in doing the project as for those who don't know, Dennis Carlone was integral in putting together the CBD rezoning and the guidelines. So he's intimately familiar with the downtown area. My understanding, Taylor, is he would like to go forward.
That is correct. We would need to have an interview with him to make sure that we're on the same page of what the peer review, the design review consists of. But yes, he has expressed interest.
So
I think that it's appropriate for us to draft a scope for him to respond to.
we can certainly, I think it would be a pretty standard scope, one based on, I think, all of the other design review consultants we've had. So we could pull one out, and I think it would be pretty standard. Is there something in particular that the board, so I think there are two issues here. One is, are we interested in waiting, seeing if there's another person who would be interested? Do we want to have more than one person? Or are we happy just pursuing this with Mr. Carlone?
So before Taylor came on, I remember talking to Deb and maybe the entire board about seeing if there were others in my network that were interested. And I had reached out. I don't know, you counted the 3 in within the 9, Taylor, but reached out to 3 professionals in the field. And I don't know what it is about this particular project, or I don't know if you guys have a sense, but why we have such a hard time in getting somebody to do this for us. And I'd be interested in exploring that, because there will be more projects like this where we need design consultants, and I don't know if there's a reputation within our town somehow, or is it the fees, or there's a problem here.
It seemed like Dennis would be good for the role since he's been involved before. I would think that he would be an ideal.
Correct, but my question is, what is it?
Right. Well, that was my initial
Then-
question. We've only gotten one respondent that's accepting, and why?
Right, and my question is why?
Yeah, you might remember this when we were looking for bids for the master plan. I think Brian got on the phone with everyone he reached out to find out why they weren't biting. And we have a reputation as being a very deliberative town.
Yeah, so that, I mean, I'm hoping that was a long time ago and people have forgotten that, but we did
I don't-
actually get like 30 letters of interest, but only
Right.
one actual submission.
Right. Right.
So, yeah, but this is a simple review. It's not like they're doing anything other than going over the design. Taylor, I think my recollection is that a number of these places simply said, we don't do that type of work.
Yeah, so from the conversation, and of course not every firm or individual I had thorough conversations with, I can certainly reach out to try to get more info, but it wasn't necessarily about the town or anything about the project. It was more about capacity and the theoretical scope of the project, rather than anything to do with the project itself.
I wonder if 3A is just taking up a lot of resources.
Possible.
Well, I think if we can provide a scope that's been custom tailored to the Waterfield project and give it to Dennis and ask him to provide a proposal letter to us, that would move the project along. And the scope would refer to all of the regulatory documents that define design standards for the CBD, which he's pretty familiar with since he was deeply
Yeah, it
involved.
seems like he would be a good candidate. I mean, he is very familiar with Winchester, and he seems to have a sensibility for Winchester.
So the question I have for the board is, would you like Dennis to come before the board and discuss this? Are you willing to say at this moment, he's the person we're going to go with, given his track record, and we can just do the negotiations offline?
Yeah, I don't know that he needs to come and talk to us. I mean,
I think we need to demonstrate that we did. I think I hesitate to sort of just choose a known entity and not at least demonstrate a vetting process, because I think for folks who are following this project but maybe don't know his work, or it would seem a bit like we
that's
didn't
a good point, Carrie.
make the effort. So I think we should
Yeah.
at least
But
let
the
him take-
vetting process was like, me making phone calls.
That's true.
Brian making phone calls, Taylor making phone calls.
I know, but at least if
no
we
response.
introduce the candidate before we vote on him, at least we've let people see why we're choosing him, which I think would be clear.
Okay.
I don't know.
Right.
I know it's a waste of time and we have so much on our plate, but it seems worthwhile to sort of.
Yeah, if we could do it quickly, since we need to move this forward too.
Yeah,
So
yeah, we do need to move it.
I'm actually on the fence on this, but I want to point out that when we got Wesson and Sampson and Toole as our 53G consultants, we did not go through a vetting process other than that engineering has worked with them intensively in the past and are happy with their work. So I'm not saying that we shouldn't do this, but there is past practice where if we have a consultant who is competent, we just go ahead and hire them.
I guess I would say that I would be comfortable going ahead with him personally.
I get what Carrie's saying, because I do think that design is the primary reason that many of these projects have some kind of conflict. So I'm on the fence too. We don't.
Sally, your hand is up.
Yeah, yes. I think that he should come in, but before he comes in to present to us, we should send to him a scope of work and ask him to send us a letter that describes what he would do, and he can make that letter the gist of his presentation, along with updating this relatively new planning board. Wasn't around in 2015 when the Center Business District regs were created, which he was a critical player in. That he would come in and present both his proposal letter based on our scope, and say, and I'm really familiar with all these things, so I look forward to being so helpful. But he can come in and present to us, but we need to provide him a scope that says, we would like you to provide peer review for, and
Yes.
with regards to design, I agree with I Ching and Carrie completely that the design peer review is probably one of the most publicly visible steps that we take as permit granting authority, and that we should do all due diligence to show that
Okay, well
he's a
then.
good
then-
candidate.
I guess
So-
it would be nice to meet him as well.
Yes.
Okay, so I get the sense, first of all, if I note, there's a person whose screen name is user, if you could please put your real name in there for the public record. That's something that our recording secretary would prefer. In any case, so I get the feeling the board wants to see Dennis. At least enough of the board is on the fence, and we got two people who want to see him, so why don't we try to schedule him for 2 weeks from now?
And can we get a scope to him before then?
Yes, of course, yes,
Yeah,
we will,
okay.
we will use the scopes that we've used on our prior projects downtown, which are, they have similar, we've got the one from, the Fells Hardware site, we've got one from 10 Converse, so those are both within the CBD. So we will get a scope for that and have him respond to it. Okay, so I don't know if we need to vote on this. I'm gonna say if anyone has a problem with this, just let me know right now. Okay, then we're gonna move ahead with Dennis Carlone. We'll see him in 2 weeks, hopefully, and then we can get the design part moving. We've got, I wanted to have 20 minutes for public comment, but Taylor, if you could very quickly give us a brief snapshot of what the written comment has been.
Yes, we have in our distribution packet, we have 3 comments which we have received over the last several weeks. One from Mary Aldrich, another from Mary Kay McIntyre, and a third from Sandy Thompson. All express support for the project, and they're all Winchester residents.
Okay, thank you. So we will get those up on our website. I think we've decided that the website's going to be the central distribution point for these comments. So you folks out at Civic Hill Causeway, when we update that, we'll send you a pointer to the website and let you know it's changed. I think it's easier to do that. And I know that we promised a Q&A from last time, and I do not think that we have that up yet. So we'll make sure we get that up.
Yes, we are, Dan, if you don't mind, we are aware that Q&A is not up. We're working through a technical hold that is keeping us from putting it into its own file, but we're working on it.
Okay, cool. So at this point, I don't think there's anything more to talk about.
Were you going to talk about design reviews comments at all?
I would like to get,
For the Waterfield lot, yeah.
well, what I'd like to do is to get all of the comments on a particular subject at the time. I mean, so we're going to have an entire session on design review, but I thought it would be useful to have our design consultant there.
I mean, could we just say that well,
I mean, if the board wants to talk about design review.
Oh, it was just in our packet, so I
Yeah,
thought.
I
Yeah,
think-
no, and it was highlighted. I really like their comment, the idea of having it look like a converted mill building. I think it really speaks to the possibility of having sort of some authentic historic details incorporated in the design that would fit well in Winchester downtown. I think the building at 10 Converse used to be a mill building before it was damaged by fire and renovated in its current form. So there is some precedent for that.
you mean?
But I think that I would encourage the board not to be afraid of having authentic historic details within. And I also agree that the dark gray, I think the view from Church Street might be, I think that's something that needs to be looked at, because you're going to have, say, 40 Church and those houses that are there, and then this big dark gray wall, which will be very visible. So that's something that I think they make a good point about that we'll have to address.
I mean, I hadn't scheduled time for this because I thought we would have an entire session on design review when we had.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, so I didn't mean to mislead the board, but
Right.
we're kind of doing that for each of the other reviews.
Okay.
So we will be distributing comments from the boards as we get them. It might not necessarily be coincident with our discussion, but they're to get them out into the public. So why don't we?
Yeah, would that be on the same website, just the
Yes,
board comments?
yes.
Okay.
Everything will be on that website. We've started, but I guess we have technical issues that we will work through. So at this point, I would like to invite comments from the public, and if you would please raise your hand electronically, or if you have your video on, wave frantically at us and we'll try to notice that you're there.
Looks like there's a hand up already.
There's a
Susan
hand up. Yep.
Verdicchio.
Susan Verdicchio. So I'm going to ask you to unmute. Can you try unmuting? Yes, you can. Go ahead. And
So
if you
this
could
is more.
state,
Hello?
I'm sorry. Yeah, could you just state who you are and where you live?
Sure, it's Susan Verdicchio, 28 Kenwin Road, Precinct 1. So this is more of a question, and that is, will you be allowing public comment when you have your session on the design? Because my comment is really about the design.
You can have you can say anything you want today.
All right.
But we will also be allowing public comment at each of our hearings. So it might be, you might want to keep it till then, but go ahead if you want to say it today.
I think it'd be better to keep it till then. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, you
It'd be
can,
best
one
to
of
hear
the-
it, but yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, but I would be interested to hear her thoughts. I realize that the design process is perhaps premature right now because we don't have a consultant. But
the public hearing is open for anything anyone wants to talk about.
Yeah.
So
I think
it's-
we should
if-
proceed.
if you wish to proceed, please do.
All right.
Great. Yeah.
So I'm kind of familiar with the earlier version, and I like that. And I think this is very similar in appearance. And I'm coming at this strictly as a layperson. I think from the standpoint of simplicity, this is a simpler design in a lot of ways. The plaza is certainly a lot simpler and probably easier for people to navigate to get to the train station. I think that the living space on the 3-story element that's fronting on Waterfield is farther away from the actual train station than it was before, when it was more of a gate. And I think that's good for the tenants' quality of life. I think that although we're losing the Chamber of Commerce building, certainly the improvements to the sewer main are probably a good idea from a functionality standpoint, since it's so old. So I think that's okay. And as the station project that's going on now progresses, and you can see the elevator towers, they really are very stark, industrial, modern looking things. And I really like how the tower element in this development has the peaked roof, and it sort of refers to the elevator tower and kind of ties it back into the the historic character of the rest of the downtown. So I don't mind that it's a little taller. I think that architecturally or visually it has a job to do, and it does it well. And then the only other thing would be, I still like the fact that the element fronting on Waterfield Street is shorter, because I think there might be some problems with shade, especially in the wintertime, and icing if the project, if the building on the site is too close to the street, or there's a shadow that goes across the street towards the common. So I just, in general, I don't see anything to object to. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? We will be, each of our meetings will be setting aside time for public comment. You can always send comments to us at planningboard@winchester.us. But I do not see anyone else who is interested, unless you're waving madly. Nope.
I have
Oh,
one
Deborah
question.
Johnson. There we go. One.
Okay.
Deborah Johnson.
good.
I will ask you to, okay. Deborah Johnson, if you could let us
Hi.
know where you live.
Can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, I had to take a phone call, so I hope I'm not repeating anything. I apologize if I am. I just was curious if you've gotten, I'm a new member of the DAC. And I'm not speaking officially as the DAC because I wasn't assigned as your person, but I just was logging in to listen to see what's going on. Did you get the update meeting minutes from the DAC yet on this project? That's what I was just curious about.
Okay,
I haven't seen them yet, Deb.
so
Okay.
for everyone out there, the DAC is the Disability Access Commission.
Yes, sorry.
No problem. Just we swim in acronyms. And so I do not think that we have seen them.
I know that they were looking at getting access to the large size, and Suzanne Gill is working with
Right.
Lisa
Lisa.
Matrandola.
Matrandola, on
Yes.
having the board have access to the large size prints. They wanted to do very specific architectural measurements on entries and
Exactly.
things like that. And so
Yeah, it was
they haven't-
impossible. We were looking at like the 11 by 14 reprints. So without having scale for that, it's impossible to look at the common areas and the bathrooms and the kitchens and see if it all meets, the requirements that it should.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
is this something that an electronic copy would be useful for, or is you really do need the big ones?
I talked with the new town planner,
Mhm.
who's on your meeting, I believe. I'm sorry,
There
like
he
I said,
is.
I just
Yep.
had to step off. And he said that there weren't electronic blow-ups of those spaces that he could find. So I think Lisa was going to make inquiries about that to see.
We've got someone from the design team, from the team here.
Taylor?
Well, so I can jump in. So we have, we've set aside, we aren't able to print out the large scale that you need, but we have set up the large scale in the engineering department for you to go in and view it. I believe it's set up currently.
Perfect.
It's on the drafting table, and you can go in and do all of your diagrams. And if you
Wonderful,
need
because
any
Lisa was
other,
going to,
Right.
go ahead.
Lisa was going to make an appointment time for us all to sit down and review that once it was available.
Yep, it's available now, so you can go in
Perfect.
and do it at your convenience.
We should, so we should have electronic copies of all of the submissions.
That was what's baffling me too, Diab. When we get a big drawing set like this, we get a PDF of the CAD drawings that are the entire submittal.
Yeah,
And
and
I would think that because people don't have CAD, they can't open it up on a regular computer. You need a
yeah,
Yeah,
so-
we do have digital copies. Deb, if I
Okay.
inferred that we did not, there's some miscommunication, or I misinformed you
Oh,
there,
I may have, I may have misunderstood
because we
too.
do.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, that's great to know. And I just was more curious about whether or not you guys had gotten our notes from our meeting already. I don't know how quickly that usually, goes through. So,
not yet.
not
okay,
yet. Yeah, and I think,
okay.
so let's go offline and make sure that you have access to the digital copies if you need them.
Right. And then there were notes just about the gross things, we were able to discuss that are, that are issues. So that, there was the secondary issue of looking at the individual spaces, and then the gross issue of where those apartments are assigned to be and things like that, that aren't, that are issues. So there was those two separate things. So,
Okay, we'll make sure
okay.
that we're going to, I think that when we talk about, it'll be design slash distribution of units. I think they kind of go together, but we'll make sure that that you guys are, we want to wait until we have your minutes, and then we will make sure that those issues get addressed.
Perfect.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Deb.
Are there any other, hands raised? I guess not. Well, that's remarkable. Okay. Well, I guess, with no other hands raised, I noticed that there was a note on our agenda that we somehow managed to skip over, and that is that one of the abutters had some specific concerns with their property. And the town has met with them, and if any of the abutters have specific concerns, it's important that you put them in writing and pass them on so that we can make sure they get to the appropriate people. So that's about it. So I think we can discuss when we're going to have our next hearing. And Taylor, I think you were thinking that we would have this in October, right?
That's correct. At this time, it looks like if we want to have a conversation where we can have peer reviews complete, time for more public comment, just a little bit more time under our it does appear that October 10th could potentially be a good time for that.
Right.
Good
And I
date for
just,
that.
and sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just realized that if we're going to be interviewing Dennis Carlone in 2 weeks, then we actually are not going to wait until October. But I think we're going to wait for the
Correct.
results of all the peer reviews. So we would have to continue this until our meeting in 2 weeks rather than October, just so that we can fit Dennis Carlone in. So that would be the 26th. And so my recommendation is that we move to continue the meeting until September. Of course, my pen runs out. September 26th at 7:30 p.m. Anyone want to make that motion?
I move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, let's call this a roll call vote to continue the meeting. I Ching,
Aye.
Sally,
Aye.
Carrie,
Aye.
Nick,
Aye.
and I say aye as well. Okay, thank you very much. I am very hopeful that we will have a lot more to speak about next time, or in October, but next time we will be speaking with Mr. Carlone. So we had on our agenda, 8 o'clock, we were going to be speaking with Ms. Carrie Dawson. But I believe she is not available to speak with us. Is that? the
Yeah,
case?
can I just raise a separate question? Perhaps it's a point of order that user is still listed as user.
Yeah, user is unwilling to change, I guess.
Well,
But
we
is,
have, we have a protocol requirement that we know who is attending our meetings.
well, I don't know that it's a public meeting, so you don't have to tell us who you are, I believe.
I see.
It is, at least as far as I know, you're in this jurisdiction, your right to remain anonymous, but they are not being, they're not interrupting the meeting, so.
No, that's fine. I just wanted to
Yeah.
comment. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, but all that we can do is ask. So, Taylor, you want to fill us in on the Rangeley Park Heritage District Commission? So,
Yep. So the Rangeley Park Heritage District Commission has one open seat. Carrie Dawson has submitted a letter of interest. Unfortunately, she's unable to join us this evening, but in the packet, we have her letter of interest is included. And Dia, correct me if I'm wrong, but we can decide that if this, since the seat is absent and Carrie is the only interested party, and use this as an opportunity to move forward and select her, or we can wait until 26th where we could attempt to interview her.
yes, I think that's completely up to the board.
My one
I'm
comment
okay.
is it's a very nice letter. Um, it certainly states lots of good reasons for her being appointed. If the board feels that we should meet her first, that's fine.
Just out of curiosity, where is this posted? This position posted? Is it on a town thing? And can anybody outside of Rangeley volunteer?
There are certain positions which are reserved for people in the district, and then there are other positions which are appointed by boards. And to be honest, I think there's 2 positions outside of the district. Taylor, did I get that right?
Yeah, I apologize to everyone. I don't know the exact details, but there are a number of positions which do require you to be a resident of the area. And I do believe, I agree with you, Diab, I do believe it is 2 where you can be from outside of the of the district.
And
Yeah.
is this vacancy identified as one or the other?
It's for the.
It is a current member of the district.
Oh, okay, great.
Is it posted just on the regular job posting sites?
Yes, it's posted on the
What's
town
Winchester
volunteers.
volunteer, right? The volunteer, yeah.
Yep.
I believe they may have been mailed as well.
To
I
whom?
think because this one was required to be from within the neighborhood, they
Oh, I
probably
see. Mailed to all houses in the district?
mail to all the people who are, yes, I don't know if it is well, this is a voluntary thing, so if you join, you are probably, I think that's the requirement. It's not that you live in the neighborhood, but that you live in the district. So. This
Oh,
is
I'm thinking that the neighborhood is the district. Sorry.
I do not, yeah, so I just want to be clear. I don't believe that every home in Rangeley Park is in the district. I may
Oh.
be wrong on that, but I don't want to make
No,
that assumption.
that is correct. There are, if you look at the map, some homes are excluded from the district.
So it's up to the board. Does the board want to, would they like to see Carrie Dawson appear and give us an indication of why she wants to be on the board, or they just want to appoint her?
Is the next step that has she already been approved by the rest of that commission?
There is no such approval. It's the only, we vote. That's it.
Oh, so this is sort of a, yeah, I mean, that's if they're happy with it, we're happy with it, right?
We don't know if they're happy with her. She's the only
Oh.
one who's come forward. I mean, we appoint, and we haven't heard. So there's not a, it's, they apply to us to be appointed to the board. So,
Well, I think given the other appointments that I've seen take place around different town committees, that they do usually interview the person. I'm sorry that she can't be here today. I really did like her letter, but I think it's proper that she would come and meet with us briefly.
okay. If that's the
Other
will of
people
the,
think that sounds right?
Sure.
okay.
I
well, then-
disagree. I'm pretty sure her daughter went to preschool with my son and she's lovely, so.
And her letter is lovely.
So
That would be two.
it should be short, if you'd like
Yeah.
to meet.
Anybody else?
I could be wrong about that, but I think that's right. A long time ago.
Well, why don't we just ask her to come back to us in our next meeting on the 26th?
Yeah, I don't want to make a mountain out of a molehill. It would just would be
It's,
nice.
no, it's, due diligence and all that.
Right, that's the word.
Okay. And so our next thing in our agenda at 8:15 is A&R. We're a little early for the A&R.
We have to stop having hearings late in the meeting because they force us to wait.
Well, this was it
Yeah,
was,
this was a particularly interesting week.
yeah, we had to juggle this. We had assumed that we would be getting a lot more, we would have a much longer Waterfield meeting because
Right.
we would have something to report from the consultants. So we had to shuffle things around quite a bit just to get us. But yeah, that is really awkward to have our hearing on the public hearing at 8:45. But why don't we march forward? We are a little early, but A&R for 39 Everett Ave. Is there someone who is here to speak on that? I know we did receive a letter from a resident of Everett Ave who was very much in opposition to this. Just to point out that there's legally, this is a legal subdivision, and as long as the meets and bounds and the various dimensions result in two buildable lots which meet all of the requirements, the board really has no power to deny. The only thing we can do is not endorse it, but if we don't endorse it, it still goes through in any case without our signatures. So there was a long letter from Kevin Sarney, which I don't know, Taylor, if you want to summarize that real quickly. I would, but it's so tiny on my screen, I can't.
It strikes me as that, well, yeah, I mean, he had an interesting letter. It strikes me as we're talking about either two oversized mansions or one, and there's not really any plan to, use the lots for kind of a socially progressive end. But given that we have no power, I mean, I don't know that I want to endorse it in any case. And I do sympathize with the resident.
So, Dia, one of the things that Mr. Sarney asked was that we not approve the A&R without seeing what's planned to be built on the new lots. And I don't have a sense that that is typically something that it is part of the A&R process. But I just open the question.
It is not. The A&R process is merely about subdivision of land. I mean, they could subdivide the land and sit on that land for 20 years. There's nothing that's not part of this discussion because this is
Right,
really,
that's why I was confused about that.
well, it's a request that, we can't fulfill because it's just not part of this process. You can subdivide your land and do nothing with it for 30 years if you want. You could, as long as all of your divisions result in buildable lots, you can move these around as you wish, and there's no requirement that you then do anything with the lots afterwards. So I think we all know what's going to happen, but there's really, yeah.
So Mr. Sonny also made a point that it's a corner lot, so there was the question of, does that mean that you have a front and a front in your setbacks?
It is certainly, yeah, I think you have two fronts. I'm correct. Yeah.
And then, so like let me just open this up really
But
big.
if your
But-
address is on Everett, then that's your front and Sheffield is your back or side at least.
Well,
Well,
one's on Everett and one's on Sheffield.
Right. And the other
But-
one would be Sheffield and they do have a back.
But the point is that regardless
you
of
can-
how many side or front yards you have, the lot itself is, that comes down to where you place your house. So you can subdivide this, and as long as you have enough frontage, is it a question about the frontage or is it a question about the setbacks?
Well, it was a question about the setbacks, because I think in our zoning bylaw that frontage setbacks are different from side yard and rear yard. And so I have to look at this exact one,
Yes,
to get the
but-
table of dimensions, but
But the key here is that we're not concerned about what the setbacks are, because we don't know what size house is going to be built there or where it's going to be located.
right.
So the only thing
So
that,
the lot A would have a frontage on Sheffield West and no other frontage, and lot B would have two frontages, Everett and Sheffield, and that's all that we need to care about.
right,
It seems to me that the frustration that this writer has with our town having lots that are subdivided and built up as big as they can to the zoning is a frustration shared by many, but it is an issue that is about our zoning that needs to be changed comprehensively through town meeting and all that. And I don't think it's fair for applicants to be spot zoned because of it just doesn't seem like it's within our purview to do that and to say, oh well, in this case then you can only have 15% density, whereas everything else is by this law. So to me this letter, I feel for the frustration and how our zoning continues to encourage and benefit those who build to the max, but that is what our zoning has done. And so, I mean, I would urge for those folks who are frustrated to then advocate for a change in our zoning laws. But within our zoning laws, this seems completely what it was designed to do. So let's redesign it, but with this applicant in front of us, it's not within that purview.
yeah, I mean, there are a number of large lots all over town which can get subdivided if you're willing to put the money in and tear down. I mean, I think I don't know if people know, Everett does have a lot of very large, nice houses. So I don't know much about the structure there. I'm sure there's some historic nature to it. But
No, it was built in 49.
well, it's okay. Well, maybe it still could have some historical nature to it. I'm a mid-century modern guy, so those are nice houses. So that's 1950s. That's close enough. But going before us, we have two choices. We can either vote to endorse the A&R, or we can vote not to endorse the A&R. And then we would, if we vote to endorse, then we would also be voting to allow the town clerk to sign the Mylars on our behalf, which is what we have been doing in the virtual era. If we don't vote to endorse, then the town clerk will sign them not on our behalf. I believe someone at town hall has to sign them. So is there a motion from the board one way or the other?
Can I just, Carrie, do you have a opinion?
I mean, I know, Mr. Sarney, who wrote the letter, is familiar to me because he lives close to the the boat club, and the boat club has a intermittent stream that runs through it. So we interacted frequently about issues around Conservation Commission and that property. So I understand his passion for kind of keeping the neighborhood quiet and beautiful is deeply understood. I think these lots are going to be a pain in the keister for the owners. And I'm bummed that our hands are kind of tied by the regulation, because I think while they're following the letter of the law, they're kind of ignoring the spirit of what we try to do in town, which is, preserve some feeling of openness and some, historic beauty. And this is, it's right. They're gonna fill it to the inch, and it will be a bummer, but we'll see it back again, and we'll do what we can with design.
I mean, do we have to involve ourselves with this?
Well, we
I
have
mean,
two choices. We can vote.
I mean,
to endorse-
do we have to touch it?
We
Well,
can,
so if we say, if we don't endorse, what does that say? What is the planning board saying then, right? That somehow our zoning is
this is, so this isn't anything, yeah.
is
so-
not correct or not,
But this isn't
needs
zoning.
adjustments or
This is just a standard,
subdivision, which is part of the zoning law, because this is a lot size and lot, you
it's
know,
lot size and
frontage.
frontage.
That's
Right.
all zoning.
Okay, you're right. I'm wrong.
So it's the reason I would be inclined to move to endorse this ANR is, first of all, because it complies completely with the current ANR requirements of that yield, resulting in two totally as of right lots, for one thing. And much as I'm sympathetic to beautiful old neighborhoods becoming, like a snapshot in time and never changing, I don't know that in the absence of it being a historic district, that such a thing can, be ensured. So I think what someone in the meeting just now mentioned, design review, it's extremely likely that both of these new houses that would be presumably built on these two lots would come before the planning board for design review and site plan review. And I will welcome the opportunity to provide recommendations and look forward to hearing what design review committee would have to say about it and what historical commission would have to say about it, knowing that continuity of style in neighborhoods is something that is in our zoning code. But to not vote to endorse the ANR, when I see that everything's completely in compliance, doesn't seem to be a sensible option to me.
I would side with you, Sally, because it does comply, but on a perspective of housing, and the cost of housing in this town, I think that to not endorse it or to say this lot was bought for $2 million, right? So like, to put a house on top of that and to gain some kind of profit because we live in capitalism society, it's become so incredibly unaffordable to most people. Whereas two lots that are going to be really big and expensive as well is not going to be as expensive as a humongous lot with a brand new house on it, right? So like, just in terms of just the small drop in the bucket of how to encourage a more efficient use of land, because we don't have enough of it, I would say this is within that kind of argument that for housing's sake, for to somehow keep the cost of land and housing to approachable levels, a division within the confines of the already existing law should be endorsed.
I just want to quickly say something about, we don't actually have design review. This would go under site plan review or special permit. The only place in town we have design review is actually in the CBD. So while this would probably come up for, I assume, site plan review, it would go through the DRC and we get their comments on
If
it.
a proposed house is over a certain size based on its residential zone, it
Because-
triggers design review, does it not?
It,
No,
it
site
triggers
plan.
site plan review. Design review is the thing that only exists in the CBD. Site
Okay.
plan review exists elsewhere. So I'm still trying to get a feel for which way the board wants to move on this.
I would move to endorse the ANR.
Okay. Is there a second?
I second it.
Okay. Any discussion? Then, if not, let's proceed to a vote. Nick,
I don't know. Am I allowed to say that?
you can abstain. You can certainly abstain.
Okay.
Okay. Carrie,
I don't vote to endorse this one. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Can I vote against
you could
to not
cha-
endorse? Can I change my vote?
you can vote against the motion to endorse. Yes.
Right, not to endorse, right?
Okay. Sally,
I vote to endorse.
I Ching,
Yay.
and I vote aye again. So that's 3-2-0. And then we are with the same motion. We are giving the town clerk the authority to sign the Mylars for us. Okay, our next thing on our agenda is to look at ZBA petition number 4004. No Intel processor, a 7 Wedgemere Ave, sorry. So, I'm sorry, Taylor, you had planner notes. They didn't make it into the packet, but they're still around. We should pop those up. You
I
sent
think
them
we
out.
got them by email.
Yeah, but we should pop these up. So I apologize. I completely forgot about them because they weren't in the packet. So typically, I hand this off, at this point, I hand it off to the town planner who describes the project, gives an overview of what's compliant and what not's compliant. So Taylor, if I could hand it over to you, and then we can go around the board.
Yep. So this is ZBA petition 4004 at 7 Wedgemere. It's a site plan review. It's a demolition of an existing detached garage for the construction of a new detached garage. The floor area of the house and the garage is greater than 5,000 square feet, meaning it needs site plan review. The property is located in RDB 10, and the proposed design is conforming and meets all of the site plan review criteria. Engineering has also reviewed the petition and has noted that stormwater management does not need to be completed. Design review committee reviewed, I can't remember if it was last week or the week before, but recently, and they received a unanimous favorable vote. And it was reviewed by the historical committee last night, and again, a unanimous favorable vote. And last note is, because we were talking about this before, in the conceptual designs, you see dormers exceeding 50% of the roof plane. This only becomes an issue if the dormers are above the second story and the dormers are not above the second story. So we have a petition with everything that is being proposed fits within the criteria of both the zone and site plan.
Okay, great. We actually
Taylor, I
have,
just have one question about lot area, where it says required 30%, that's lot coverage of structures, and it should be
That
max.
is coverage of the backyard. If I'm remembering correctly. As we have this discussion, let me double check that and make sure for you.
That one just didn't jump out as me as unclear. Sorry, thank you.
Okay, I just want to, we do have Assistant Town Engineer Brian Manter here. Brian, do you want to provide anything further on what Taylor said? He stole your thunder.
No, Taylor nailed it right on the head. With respect to stormwater management, they do not need to do that.
Okay, cool. So, why don't we, is there any discussion on the board? I mean, I think this is a very quiet board. If there's no discussion, I mean, I think what we could do is I think people out in TV land might want to see this thing because I think it is a rather nice design.
Well,
So
then
Taylor,
let's go through the drawings.
yeah, let's at least look at some of the drawings.
The Mark Vaughn is also here. He has his hand raised.
Oh, I think we need to make you, let me, okay, Mark, try unmuting.
Yeah, so just for the record, Attorney Mark Vaughn, I'm working with a property owner, Rick Griffin, who's also here on the Zoom call. And we really don't have much more to add than what's been said. I thought Taylor did an exceptional job of providing an overview of the process to date and the favorable recommendations thus far. But in short, there's an existing garage that's in the back of that lot today. We're looking to demolish and replace it with a garage in the same general location that would satisfy the setback requirements. And I know my client's architect has worked very hard to come up with a design that complements the existing home quite well. And I know that was met with great support from design review and historic commission in terms of having features and elements of that new garage that complement the existing home. So that's all I wanted to add. I don't want to belabor the conversation, but I just wanted you to know that we're here if you had any questions for us. So.
Okay, thank you. So far, anything from the board? Is the board ready to move?
I am.
So
Sally, I'd like to answer your question first, just so that you know.
Oh, yes, Taylor, thank you.
Do not, taken together, cover more than 30% of the rear yard.
Taken together meaning structure plus impervious surface?
That is the assumption that.
Yeah, no,
Yes.
and what they're doing is they're only covering 20%, so that's great. Right, okay, thanks for the clarification.
This design strikes me as an example of how historic details can be used in new construction, and I think it's you know, I think that as an example, it has application to other buildings that we might conceive of in the town as we proceed with our other projects.
okay, thank you. Is there a motion to recommend favorable action on ZBA petition number 4004?
Oh, I so moved that we approve this.
We recommend favorable action. Okay. Is there a second?
Recommend favorable action, that's correct.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, roll call vote, please. Carrie,
Aye.
Nick,
Aye.
Yi Ching,
Aye.
Sally,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well. Thank you very much. Thank you to the petitioners for showing up.
Thank you. Appreciate your time. Have a good night.
Me too. And now we are moving on to a discussion of the Community Preservation Act. And Taylor, I apologize. I don't recall. Were you able to pass on information to Mike Betancourt about when we were meeting tonight?
Yes.
Okay.
However, I do not see Mike here tonight.
Yeah. So, just very briefly, the select board has decided to move forward. So the Community Preservation Act is a law which has been on the books for a number of years. And Sally, you know much more about this.
23 years.
Thank you, 23 years. And what it is, what it does is if the town, I think it's called it, Sally, you want to give us a 2-minute on this? Because
Yes, I can do that.
Please.
So I might have some of the minor details wrong, but over 2 decades ago, the Commonwealth set up a program called set up a law called the Community Preservation Act, and several hundred, or not several hundred, more, almost 200 of the 350 cities and towns in Massachusetts have enrolled in or are participating in this program that allows towns to levy a surcharge above their real estate tax of not more than 3%, and you can do 1 or 2, to put into a special fund in each town that's called a community preservation fund. And whatever money you put in there at the end of your fiscal year gets matched that following October by the state based on 1%, 2%, and 3% participation at some match amount that's set by the legislature each year based on the town or the state coffers. But the money can only be used for the way the act describes it. It's 3 things. It's either historical preservation, recreational assets, or help me, Diab. The third thing is
open
Affordable housing.
space.
affordable
Affordable
housing.
housing.
Very
Oh,
important.
yes,
Thank
thank
you,
you.
I Ching. And so each town has their their community preservation fund, and they set up a community preservation committee, which doesn't necessarily have to be called that because we already have a CPC in town, the Capital Planning Committee. And this would take the pressure off our capital funds by creating an ongoing stream of revenue from the state that matches the additional monies from the surcharge. And there are exemptions for people who would have that surcharge added to their tax bill based on income and possibly also age. I'm not certain. This is where I get fuzzy. But I will say that there's a Community Preservation Coalition website, which is amazing. And they have incredible data about what each of these towns has done and the projects that have been funded and the total amount of money that has come out of the state to these towns over the 23 years. And one other thing I didn't mention is that communities that participate at 3% have the opportunity for 2nd round and 3rd round funding in each funding year based on what's in the coffers and what the legislature I guess there's maybe a steering committee or there's a board that decides if they can do what they can do with 2nd and 3rd round, but 3% communities are part of that. And I encourage all of us to go to the Community Preservation Coalition website and start diving into the data because it is absolutely amazing what this act has done in 23 years for the participating towns. And I'm happy that Winchester is considering enacting this in the town.
Thank you. So I think that the most recent match was at a 30%. It's around 30%. Am I correct?
This is where I don't want to
Okay.
make the
Yes.
technical details. I haven't refreshed myself on for a while.
Right. No, I don't want to put you on the spot.
And I think that's the kind of thing that we would love to hear from Mike about.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry that he can't be here.
So the reason this is on our agenda is because the select board has decided to move forward to start the process of bringing this to the voters, and that requires a vote from town meeting to put it on the ballot, and it has to be on the next ballot. And so the select board has decided they would like to put this forward to town meeting in the spring so that it appears on the ballot during national elections next November. What the select board is setting up now is a preliminary, I guess you could call it a working group. They're looking for participation from a large number of boards. And the idea is to come up, they're looking to present a report to town meeting in a couple months. And they are actually starting to set up the date for the first meeting. So they would like to have 2 members of the planning board on this working group. And I would like to ask members of the board to volunteer.
Well, I'll volunteer because I have at least a foundational understanding of the program and the steep path to town meeting and then the November vote. But I'm happy to be on the committee along with another person from the planning board, whoever has a deep interest in recreation, affordable housing, and historic preservation.
Wait, what's the scope of this working group? Just drafting the language to get the community preservation bill on the town meeting agenda, or is it, what's the duration of this commitment?
I think
it was written up, was it not? I saw, didn't you have something in the packet about what was involved? I can't remember now, hold on.
I think I'm trying to remember. There was a letter that was sent out from Mike.
Oh yeah, Mike has a memo that he sent out, you're right.
And I think that went to the full planning board.
Yeah, but that was from you. You forwarded it, so if anyone's searching, they should look for you.
Oh, good.
Yeah, it's called the CPA Study Committee.
I'm happy to work on this with you, Sally. Reed was really passionate about this, so I feel fairly well informed about what it's capable of from Concom meetings.
Yeah,
I would be so happy to work with you on this, Carrie.
Great.
Okay. So, great. So we have 2 people. It looks like in all the other committees, they just have a single member.
Oh,
So I'm
so where
looking.
did we get to 2? We don't need 2.
We don't need to. And I think, well, they have a primary and a secondary from the Affordable Housing Trust. I just think this is such an important thing. We should have 2 things. Maybe I was looking at, but so you can
Okay.
duke it out as to.
Oh,
which
I don't
one-
have any dukes up, Carrie. I defer to you.
I concede.
Carrie,
Okay.
it says outreach between September and November 2023. The group intends to meet bi-weekly, virtually, or in person when scheduling that.
Great, perfect. Thank you for finding that for me.
Okay.
We can tell them we're both willing to help as we can, and we'll just alternate. How about that?
That sounds great. I'll leave that up to
This,
you. And if you could just, you've got the email, if you could fill out the doodle poll link in that email, and I think they would to get things going.
What they filled out, I'm sorry, so Carrie's doing that.
One of you should, if
Yeah.
you're going to alternate, then
Well, if we're gonna alternate, yes, I didn't
Why
pull up
don't
the
you-
email, so.
you
I'll
2 can
find it.
figure it out. But if you would just click the doodle poll link and sign up, then I think they would be very happy because I know they've been waiting to get this off the ground. Okay.
So Carrie, how about that we can talk and you can be the lead and I can be the pinch hitter?
After all of your service but until we hire Taylor, I am forced to accept that arrangement.
Oh, turn up
Carrie.
I've got you.
guilt. Turn up.
Wait,
the
who
guilt.
sent that email? Why am I not finding that
Yeah, I
email?
don't
I
think
was
you
trying to
sent
find
it
it
all
too.
out, Diab. Diab, you have it only for yourself. You need to forward that to everyone.
Wait,
Or
I
to
thought.
Sally and Carrie.
Wait, I'm sorry. Didn't I forward it?
I don't see it. I could just be missing it, but I don't see it.
Well, I
Yeah, I
apologize.
think you sent it to me and Taylor. I don't know that you sent it to anyone else. I don't know why. Let me just type in CPA and see what comes up.
Well, I'll be darned.
CPA Study Committee kickoff meeting.
Well, I sent something a couple weeks ago, which was, it was dated, it was
8/29.
Yeah, so what he wrote, it's your email.
yes, my email from 8/29 is the one which describes the committee.
Yep.
Oh, but the one with the doodle poll is the one you don't have. Okay, that's the
Right.
one.
I don't have that either.
Okay, I apologize. I thought I forwarded both. What I will do is I will forward the one with the doodle poll to the entire committee, so you all know what I'm talking about. And so you can all see what you're missing out on. Okay, so that is done.
Dia, would you mind telling me what my position is in this? We can also take that offline, but I am curious.
That is a good question because I don't know what it is. And I will take that offline and figure out how you work in on this. I don't know. There are two people on town staff who are part of this. That's Ken Pruitt and Jennifer Ryan. I'm not familiar with Jennifer Ryan.
I think Jennifer Ryan is a resident of the town of Winchester, and I believe she's a member of the Community Preservation Coalition Steering Committee.
Okay, and I know Ken.
I might be mistaken, but I think that's what it is.
Ken does dual duty as a member of town staff and as a resident and as a town meeting member. So I don't know what his role is, but he was listed. Okay, let's talk offline on that. Our next, we're moving ahead so quickly today. I don't understand.
8:45.
Our next is at 8:45 when we have a hearing on
Yeah, we have an 8:45
we
hearing.
have an 8:45, and so in the lead up to it, Carrie, I'd like to apologize. We were trying to get the discussion of the of the street trees.
Yeah,
warrant
there's some language
article.
that's being updated. They're bringing an update to the sort of designation for the membership and the meeting requirements for the permanent street tree committee. So I don't think it will be controversial, and I certainly don't think this group will be concerned about it, but they just want to know that we endorse it when we get to the
Yeah.
meeting.
So I apologize. I
Or
thought
don't.
we'd get on this, but
Was
this
that in our
one-
packet?
no, it was it for some reason didn't make it. It did not make it above the cut for this meeting, even though we had it on there, and I think we were just really worried about time.
So how about if Carrie, if you could just be a little bit more detailed about the update, and then we don't have any discussion, because there's
Sure,
not.
there's
Well,
an
wait,
updated.
I'm
update.
sorry.
wait,
I'm
wait,
sorry.
Dia.
I'm sorry. It's not on the agenda.
So it can't be done as an update?
Well, it's no, because I think the board would like, if the board wants to endorse it and talk about it, it has to be on the agenda.
I see.
So I'm just wanted to apologize for it not being there because I haven't had a chance to apologize yet.
There's a final version after a couple more people weighed in, so I should forward that to you anyway.
Yeah,
David Miller is using
So
very
that could be on
large-
the agenda for the 26th of September, yes?
right. So the final wording is due to the town by the 22nd, but that doesn't, we can endorse it at any point. So it's not,
Oh, I see.
yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's for town meeting, right, okay.
it's for town meeting. It's not something we have to do prior to then. So we'll
I'm
just,
forwarding you, Diab, I'm forwarding you the update. What I sent you, if you just sort of replace the text with this, it will have the updates that were the result of a couple more conversations after what I sent you.
okay, why don't you just send it to
Include
the
me
whole,
on it too, please.
yeah, just
Yeah.
send it to the whole board, Carrie. That's the easiest.
Okay, hold on.
That way it doesn't get lost in my pile of email.
Gonna be a little out of context, but
That's okay.
and I'd like to point out that David Miller chose the very large hot pink font.
Hot pink. Okay, that's a design choice. Okay.
Oh, hot pink, yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so we're really close to being at 8:45. So I'm going to ask for a motion to open up a public hearing to discuss um, in particular, the planning board's ADU bylaw warrant article.
I'll move that.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call vote. Carrie,
Bye.
Sally,
Aye.
Nick,
Aye.
Yi Ching.
Aye.
I say aye as well. Okay, so this is so the way this format will be is we're going to have a short presentation on the ADU bylaw article. And then we're just going to sit back and listen to public comment. And that comment will, if there is sufficient comment that warrants that we want to take that comment into consideration with the final wording. The final wording is due on September 22nd. I think after we listen to the public comment this evening, if we feel that we need to incorporate that comment, we can either do it this evening or we would hold a very short, I believe, special meeting of the board to get it in prior to the deadline for the town. So I guess I can start this. Yeah. So what this is a revision to the ADU bylaw that was passed last fall, and it's by 3.2.2, and people will be wondering why it is that we're coming back to revise this so quickly, and that's because there turns out to be a hole. And Taylor, if you could scroll up to the next page. So the gist of the article is that we want to make two changes to the text. One of them is a clarification, and that's, you see, this is the preamble of section 322. And the first edit is to add the words in either the primary or accessory unit. And the reason we're adding that is there has been confusion as to where the housing option is. Is it in the primary or the accessory? It can be in both, but there was confusion about where it could be, because you could imagine that you could use the primary accessory for the purpose of creating a housing option, but it doesn't tell you where that option is going to be created. So it may seem like it's duplicate language, but this was a suggestion to clarify that. The bigger change, however, is that what we want to do is we want to lower the age of, we want to change the minimum age for being able to take advantage of the ADU bylaw from 62 to 60. And the reason for that is on the next slide. Taylor, if you could scroll up, please. Right. So when we wrote the ADU bylaw, we had two populations in mind to help increase expand their housing choices. One is people with disabilities, and we defined that by Mass General Law. And the other was seniors, which we defined in the bylaw as being older than 62. What we discovered was that if we go by Mass General Law to define a person with a disability, Mass General Law only extends that definition up to people who are just about to turn 60. So if you turn 60 and you're a person with a disability, all of a sudden Mass General Law says that you're a senior, you're not a person with a disability. And if we scroll up to the next section, we see that this is the place where these things are, this particular definition occurs in the Mass General Law, Chapter 19C, Section 1, and it defines a disabled person as a person between the ages of 18 and 59 And that's the key thing, is that our definition says that you can be a person with a disability or a person older than 62. But if you happen to be a person with a disability who turns 60, then all of a sudden you're no longer legally allowed to live in your ADU because you are no longer a person with a disability and you're not yet 62. So if you scroll up to the next page, please. It essentially means that you have to leave your house for 2 years until you turn 62 in order to make use of your ADU again. And so this is something that, if you scroll up again, please. Next page, yeah. So how did this happen? This happened because when we were juggling the two concepts of people with disability and seniors, we were looking at them essentially as two separate populations, and we didn't really take into account that the state had an age limit. And when we looked at the state limit of 60 as a definition as a person for senior, and the federal definition, which I believe is 65, we essentially split it down the middle and we created this hole. So the idea is to remove this hole so that if a person with a disability has access to an ADU, they can continue to live in that ADU when they reach the age of 60 and beyond. And so that is why we will be coming back to town meeting to remedy this rather bizarre characteristic of Massachusetts law, because that's what we're following in our definition. So at this point, this is where we open up the phones, as it were, to public comment. And so if there was anyone in the public who would like to comment, please raise your hand. And we'd love to hear from you. And of course, if you are in TV land and watching us on WinCam, you can always email us at planningboard@winchester.us. That email goes to the entire board as well as to Taylor. And so we will all see your comment.
Yeah, but I have a question.
Sure.
But I don't want to preempt any public comment if I'm not seeing any right now.
I'm not seeing anyone, but just, yeah, let's get rid of some dead air.
So my question, if we go back to the second slide, where we're inserting the words in either the primary or accessory unit, the way that you described it, I think it was a little bit different from the way I thought of it. So can you describe it again?
Well, why don't you tell me how you thought of it?
I think that the reason this came up in the building department and this has come to the planning board for us to correct is that you can create an accessory dwelling unit in a single family or a duplex building, and it can be attached or detached. And either the primary resident or residence or the accessory unit can be built for and or used by one of the, and I'll use the phrase qualifying persons. I think that the language was intended that if you're 60 or older, or you're disabled, that you can create, and you own the property, that you can create an accessory dwelling unit there, and that you, the 60 or older person, or you, the disabled person, can live in one or the other of the units, the primary or the secondary, accessory, I should say, unit. Is that what you said?
That's what I wish I'd have said. I think you said it clearer, but that was the gist of what I was trying to get at. Was that,
I want to make sure this is really clear at town meeting, because this is important to allow people to do this, to have clarity and not be opposed because of some misunderstanding or concern. I just want to make sure everybody realizes this is a good
well,
thing.
then the question is this language clarifying or is it more confusing?
So provided that either the primary or accessory unit is used for the purpose of creating options in either the primary or accessory unit for persons with disabilities, or at least one of the persons in the unit is age 60 or older.
Well, that I believe, yeah, so that's the language. The question is, does the addition make it more clear or less clear?
And I Ching, you've been part of this whole
Yeah.
thing.
So when you explained that, Sally, I found that to be very, it might be misleading because you seem to implicate that that the owner has to be either 60 or disabled, when I think the law is, we're specific about when we created that law was to design it so that the owner doesn't have to be either of those things. It just there needs to be one person, at least one person who is 60 or disabled, or 62
Living in one of those two units.
living. So like
Yeah.
the ownership doesn't matter. The owner does have to live in one of those things. But so I think that was a little bit confusing.
Yeah, so I did describe it.
We need to be clear about that the owner doesn't have to be disabled or over 62 currently.
It's just that you're doing
Creating.
this work. You're
Right.
seeking this building permit in
Right.
order to create either
Yeah.
in the main house or by virtue of an ADU.
Right. So that
and
was
you
my
already did.
one point.
Yeah.
And then the other was, I remember when we were doing this change for town meeting that it was mostly about the age, and I'm not sure why this new language in either the primary or accessory unit is necessary. Was there a problem? Is there a misunderstanding of
There
this
was,
comment, or I find this to be really confusing, like an added twist to something that's already, people might have a little bit of
so this
reaction to.
was, yeah, so this was, there were a set of concerns that were passed along from some of the ADU people early to Jay Tellerman. And I think he responded to all of them. I think that's how this came about. I think this came about, Sally, because you were providing some input for Jay and he responded to that. And I don't recall, I mean, we can remove that if the board thinks that that's,
Has
think
people
it
come to the
confuses
building
it.
department about this?
I'm sorry, Sally?
You said that some questions had arisen, and I thought that meant it could come from people applying to the building department and having questions. That's not the case?
I think there were, no, I don't believe that that was the case. I think that these are, yeah, so the questions did not, as far as I know, that's not where the questions have arisen.
Okay, so I can credit myself with being the source of miscommunication and confusion.
Yeah, I'm still coming out of our last town meeting and just feeling like we need such a win here. We don't
Yeah.
need to confuse things.
I know.
So if it's just the age thing, let's just focus on the age thing, and I don't want people to divert from that and to get into something that wasn't a problem.
Right, I think the
There's-
concern was expressed in this was that it was unclear what where you created the housing option. And
Well,
so-
Using a verb thing here, Diab. There's the verb construct or established as a matter of right. So construct, I mean, no matter what, you're getting a building permit to do this thing, right? And then there's use, which is the fourth line, 1, 2, 3,
No.
fourth line, third word. So what we're saying is that you can get a building permit to construct this, as long as one or the other of those structures is used for this.
For the purpose of creating a housing option, but it doesn't say where that housing option is created.
Right.
And that's why the extra, so the question, I don't know how you create a housing option other than in the primary accessory unit. But the plain reading of the language says that you're creating a housing option. It doesn't say where you're creating it. And the extra language says it actually has to be on the property.
That doesn't say that. On the property,
Well, it has to be in either the primary or accessory unit.
It just seems to add confusion to what was not a question.
right.
Okay. I'm not wed to this language. I just, this is, this
Yeah.
was
I mean,
one of the.
I'm not sure
building it and
people
there's
are
living it.
wondering where the option is. I mean, it's that you can add an extra unit, right?
Yeah,
And
you can
so
add a
that-
separate
that's-
living unit to
that's
your
just
property.
More options.
And you can do so for the purpose of creating a space for somebody who
It
is
doesn't say that. It says for creating a housing option.
creating a housing option. You're right. It's not a space. It's a housing option.
And it doesn't say where the housing option is being placed, although it sort of implies it's on the lot within one of the primary accessory
Right.
units.
Right.
So
I
if-
feel
if
like
the-
we belabor that whole point of it's either in the unit, attached
So-
to the unit or out to the unit. Like those.
So let's just cross it out.
Yeah.
If the board is not in favor of this line, then let's remove it. Can I get a vote from the board on this?
I vote for that. I make a motion to remove that language in either the primary or accessory unit.
Okay, is there a second?
Yes, I second that.
Okay.
So we're
any
back to where
discussion?
we've been all along.
Is there a discussion from the rest of the board on this, or?
I agree. I think the urgency of getting the 60 clarified is much more.
Okay,
In town meeting, you just don't know what's gonna happen.
okay, so why don't we just do a quick roll call vote? And the motion is to remove that phrase in either the primary or accessory unit. So Carrie,
Aye.
Nick,
Aye.
Sally,
I
Yi Ching.
Aye.
Okay, I'm still looking for someone to join us and raise their hand, but looks like it's not happening.
So does this constitute our formal hearing on the bylaw as it's going into, before the warrant closes on September 22nd?
Yes, it does, and I'm hoping that we can take a vote today, which would we would vote to place this on the warrant. But
I would move that we do that. Is there anything else that we have to talk about?
I don't think so, but I'm lost my agenda, so I don't know what time, Taylor, when are we supposed to start oh, thank you. We have until 9:05, but I think we can cut it out right now, so, if there's a motion to place the warrant language as amended this evening, or place the article language as amended on the town warrant for the fall 2023 town meeting, is there such a motion?
So
And
moved.
Oh, good.
I'll let somebody else move it. I've been moving things.
No, each thing moved it and I second.
Okay, so roll call vote, please. Carrie,
Aye.
Sally,
Aye.
Nick,
Aye.
who did I miss? I Ching,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well. Thank you all very much. Okay, so now we are going to move on to 40 Church Street. And do we have Sarkis could lock in let's,
We have two people with the same name.
yeah, let me, Taylor, could you make them co-hosts, please, so they can unmute?
Sure can.
And can you folks unmute yourself? And are you both Sarkis, or is one of you Alex?
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, I'm Sarkis Kavlakian. I'm here with my father, Alex Kavlakian, as well.
Oh, okay. So we have Sarkis and Alex. Okay, great. So to start this off, this is a project in the Center Business District, which is at 40 Church Street. It is a property which has one of the buildings on the property has been noted as being of historic importance in the CBD district. There is interior and exterior work being done on the property. The exterior work requires a review by the planning board. And so why don't I turn it over to Taylor? You can start off the discussion.
Yes, and Diab, I may have some questions for you to fill in my gaps, just in case. So we have the applicants here with us, and because this is in the central business district, they have to go through essentially a checklist, section 7316 of submission requirements. The applicant has submitted all required submissions or all required parts of the submission. However, you will see that some will be duplicates of others, and that's for an intention of asking for waivers for those. For example, if you see on page 113, 135, we have a traffic and circulation plan, and on, excuse me, I didn't mean to say traffic and circulation. I meant to say 134, the landscape plan. There are no changes being requested on the landscape plan. So the applicant is either asking for approval that this has been submitted or a waiver.
So why don't we start from let's start from the top at page 125, which is I think the first drawing, so we can go through what the project is. Unless it's 130, 125 I got. No, it's not that one. It's the first elevation, A3. Okay, yeah. So this is the do we have an existing conditions plan?
We have existing site plan.
But we don't have an existing elevation. No, this is not. This is, so we don't have existing elevation to compare this to. So let's just go with what we've got right now. So this is a plan to renovate this. Shoot, you can't see my cursor, can you? The idea is to renovate the central building, which is the historic structure here, by essentially doing interior demolition, renovation, and then right behind the mansard roof to the left is the addition of a third floor. And then this also calls for replacement of the exterior siding, rebuilding the staircase that you see on the side, and also to enclose what's now an open entryway to that structure. So if you look at the top drawing on the lower left part, you'll see a new door that's currently an open entrance. It's open and it extends back to the original house. So there are, so this is the exterior work that's being contemplated for this project. Do you have your checklist handy so that we can see what documents are with us? It'd be good if we just simply went through the checklist and looked at the documents.
Yep, give me one sec. Not showing up. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a sec. Can you fill in the silence? Yeah.
Sure, I can fill in the signs. What shall I fill it with? Right, so this particular project requires two pre-application meetings, one with the town planner and one with the historic commission because it is one of the historic structures. There has been some delay in getting this project going. The original submission of the permit was back, I believe, either in May or June. There was some really poor communications between some of the parties, myself included. I think we're back on track with Taylor being there, who's been able to help the applicant move through the process. There are a number of submission requirements that Taylor's hopefully going to bring up. Some of the things are historical renovation plan, and a number of other things. And there we go. Okay.
Just to preface this, this is the checklist. These boxes are supposed to be checked. I'm not exactly sure why they aren't. They are all checked. Dia, would you like me to go through each?
I think it's important that we go through what they're waiving. I mean, I am a little concerned that we don't have an existing.
Are we being asked to waive stuff today?
Yes,
I don't think that's a good idea. I think that you had written in your email of August 1st that design review is required. Of all projects, we need a permit for exterior work in the center business district. I mean,
Yes,
having looked at all of this, there is nothing that gives me encouragement that the project is going to be carried out in a way that will be satisfactory. And none of the materials that I've received give me any confidence.
We're actually putting the cart before the horse here. This project has actually not met the submission requirements yet, so it hasn't officially entered our system, in the sense that design review cannot look at this until the packet is complete.
Right,
So,
but I'm not comfortable waiving anything at this point. They've already sold off the slate and the roof to pay for the shingles. I mean,
hold on. Wait 1 second, Nick. So let's just talk about the process. Design review does not come in until this permit application is complete. And so we're talking about this permit application. And so they have asked for waivers, and if we choose not to give those waivers, that's our prerogative. But we should at least go through the same thing that we went through for 27 Church, is we will go through all the requests for waivers and we will vote yes or no as to whether we believe those are appropriate. So that's the process before us this evening. So I think we should go through the checklist and see whether or not the submission is complete on that checklist. And when we get to a waiver, we can discuss whether that waiver is appropriate. Because we're not talking about design yet. We're not talking about anything like that, because it isn't actually officially before us yet in that capacity. This is purely procedural tonight in terms of moving forward.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know if that answers your, Nick, I'm trying to get some.
Well, I don't know. Well, I still have to look at what we're waiving, but
Yes,
I'm not
yes, I
comfortable.
agree.
I'm not comfortable with anything about this at the moment.
Well, let's, this is still has to go through, it still has to go through historical, still has to go through design review, it has to go through the pre-historical meeting. So all we're doing is looking at, so we've got the petition narrative is present. The existing conditions plan, what I don't see is one of the things, because it's a historical building, I would like to see what the building looks like in elevations prior to the addition of the new work. So
And specifically, you're saying you'd like to see an architecturally drawn elevation of each of the existing conditions of the elevations of the building.
there's that, and there's also, this is a historic structure, so we
I
want.
don't even think that I feel like what is necessary is a highlighting of what is being changed. So you've seen in some of the packets that we've seen where the existing is then kind of faded into the gray, and then the changes are in a darker lines, right? So that's what we're hoping to see. But I like to understand a big picture view of what this project is about. My understanding is that the back one-story building is being demolished, and then a proposed three-story is added. Is that right? And then the front entrance. No. Okay, so can I get a big picture from somebody?
Yeah, sort of a briefing.
Okay, so can we go back to page 125? So there's an interior demolition, but there's no exterior demolition. There is the addition of a third story behind the mansard.
Well, I think more than 2/3 of the cladding is going to be replaced on this, so I think that qualifies as a effective demolition.
It's actually technically, legally not a demolition. That's a separate thing. There is no demolition of the structure. There's an addition of a third story behind the mansard roof.
Yeah, but technically, it's called an effective demolition if more than 2/3 of the cladding is being replaced.
That's not the way it's.
That's a recent law, a recent.
But that's not the standard in Winchester.
Yes, it is. It is.
According to whom?
According to all of the. It's a standard in Winchester, and I think we need to look it up.
I don't think that demolition falls. No, demolition requires removing walls. Removing cladding from a building is not a demolition. It has never been treated as demolition by the building department.
I can't. I don't know what the zoning number is, but I know I know for a fact that that is the current.
Because that's not. I have never heard of removing of cladding from a building as being demolition.
It's called substantial. It's not a demolition. It's a effective demolition.
Well, let's find the wording for that. Because there are plenty of houses which remove their cladding and put new cladding up, and they don't require. There's nothing which prevents you from.
I think it's for historic properties.
Okay, let's talk about the what's happening on this project is.
All right, why don't we move ahead? I don't want to.
Yes. So what's happening on this project is to add a third story behind the mansard and to essentially fix the exterior, to reclad the exterior, and to put in the enclosed entrance on the front of the building.
And replacement of windows.
One of my questions on the windows is, are they changing in appearance from the original historic windows that are there?
That is not the question of which windows are being used is a separate issue from this hearing. That is when we're talking about design review and historical.
I see. So this is just about what they wish to waive.
This is just about what is in their submission packet for the permit.
Right.
Is it complete or not? Everything else comes afterwards, because that's when the process starts. Tonight, we're just looking to see whether the packet is complete and whether the waivers they request are appropriate.
So going back to Taylor's checklist would be a helpful outline for us to follow?
Yes.
Okay, so we were on the petition narrative,
I think they have a narrative.
right? And the existing conditions, we said, they're saying it's visualized in photos.
Well,
And
one of,
I Ching, you had a comment about whether what they,
Well, I think, can we go to the end of this? Because it says what the waivers are they're at requesting.
You know,
Yeah,
how
but
many
I-
waivers are there and can we get them, can we get
Can
them
we
Right
done?
there.
excuse me.
So they're not
excuse me.
changing anything about the buildings, traffic or circulation, parking, transportation, etc. Or
Right.
the number of units or things like that. So in terms of that, it seems reasonable to conclude that maybe that could be waived.
Yes, but I'm still stuck on existing conditions because I don't think this packet is actually sufficient for that.
Right, but they're not
So-
asking for a waiver for that.
I'm just saying that the existing packet is insufficient, and I would like to say why I think it's insufficient.
Okay.
So
So
we
that's
don't
why-
actually need to vote on the waivers. The first thing we need to decide is, are we accepting the packet that asks for waivers?
This is our chance to tell the petitioners what we think of the packet, and so that they can correct it where they
Nice.
think it. And so I would like to go back to the top, please. And I would like to say that what I would like to see under existing conditions is I would like to see an indication of what the historical architectural elements are so that we know what they are. So when they're replaced in kind, we know that they are being replaced in kind. So we're talking about close-up pictures of all of the molding and all of the things that make it architecturally important. So I think that's an existing conditions thing, and I don't know that I do not believe that the photos are sufficient to document that.
and I would agree with you, Diab. I think typically an existing conditions set is an architectural drawing set that shows what's there now. And I Ching, your comment was that the drawing that they submitted where there's dark and then there's light, the dark part is what's there now. Is
Oh,
that-
no, dark would be the changes. So that
the
would be
change.
proposed elevation, say. So even with this packet, I'm having a hard time understanding what their proposed changes are. So a simple front page of like what the proposed scope of work might be with evidence to show like how they're changing it, right? So an elevation, if they're going to change the elevation, how that changes. The mullions on the windows, it looks like are going to change. And so like that kind of a ability to read the change on paper would be helpful. And I do think that documentation in photos is helpful, but these ones don't say the complete picture yet. I mean, they're just like little. I would like a better documentation would be helpful, a full elevation or just indication of which elevation we're looking at in
Right.
these. So yeah, I agree with you, Diab. I think that would be helpful.
Okay, why don't we go back to the checklist, please? So let's look at the site development plan. So as pointed out, they're not changing the footprint of the building. They're not changing any of the other, anything other than, so
Well, so do they have a site plan for, I have to go back to the drawings. Thank you.
there is a site plan. Taylor, if you want to pull that up.
So in this site plan, I would appreciate some of the location of the adjacent buildings. That would be helpful if they were. I see on the left, if you're looking at the front elevation, you do see an outline of the adjacent building.
Yeah, I think the adjacent buildings should be shown, I Ching. I agree. Also, this property backs up to the Waterfield lot.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And my question is whether the changes to this building will impact the Waterfield lot in any way.
No, they are not the changes to the part of this lot that are adjacent to the Waterfield lot. Brian, you have your hand up there. Did you want to say something?
Yes, what is the date of the site plan that we have here?
It's 2014.
Okay, so that's 9 years.
Is that do we want a new one? I don't know what the standards of engineering are.
Typically, I don't know if there's a written standard. However, when we do plans similar, we like to see a site plan that's a little more recent. Things can certainly change in the last 9 years.
Okay, so we need an updated site plan.
May I also say that this isn't a site plan, this is a survey. A site plan shows how the different materials on the site, what am I calling, the horizontal plane of the earth, what the materials of the walks and driveways and so on are. And it shows, like I Ching said, it should show the outlines of adjacent buildings, and it should show circulation flow. This is a survey that says dimensions and registry of deeds data.
Well, there are other drawings of the property which might give us that information. So Taylor, if you could scroll down to one, there's one that kind of looks like a landscaping plan, but isn't. So
the one with
this,
2 cars.
yeah, so this is,
Oh, there. Okay.
yeah. It does not show all the meets and bounds, but that's what the.
Well, no, wait,
show.
I was looking, so we're looking at A5, is that correct? It's cut off on my screen for some reason. Let me fix the view.
Yep, A5.
The window. Okay, so the labeling says existing driveway, and it would be typical to indicate what the surface material of the existing driveway is. And then like, is it brick or is it blacktop or cement or whatever? And it typically shows traffic circulation.
Well,
The next
uh,
page.
yeah, it's there.
Which is not,
There's not a lot of traffic circulation to be had.
well,
It's-
so if there's an existing driveway into the back of the building, where does that go? Like, I
there
don't
is
see the
not
property line on the back.
the property line, there is not an existing driveway to the back of the building. I'm sorry, the driveway comes off of Church Street. There's a single driveway that comes from Church Street to the back of the building.
Right, and that's what they're proposing to continue using, and the cars would go into this new garage. Right, but this, where it says existing driveway and it kind of fades off the drawing. Where's the property line, and what is that existing driveway to be used for?
There's a parking lot. There's parking for the building in the rear.
So the site plan would typically indicate the parking space lines, for instance.
There's actually a garage in the back, I believe.
So the site plan would include the entire site, the entire property.
Okay, so we're looking for something like this, which includes the property boundaries, so that we have an idea of what the relationship of the structure is to the neighboring lots.
Right,
Okay,
and the surface of the paved spaces and parking spaces as they would be striped on the property. And am I to understand that the row of shrubs across the bottom there is not on this property?
it is on this property.
Oh, it is on this property, so that would be helpful to see what the property lines are. And typically a site plan, well, it doesn't have to be a planting plan if it's existing plantings, but it would identify what's growing there.
Yeah, they don't plan on changing, adding or subtracting from the landscaping.
Then
And this
then
gets,
I understand that they don't want to do a landscape plan, fine. But
Yeah.
what I do want to know is about the property lines and how the building is seated on the property and how the paved surfaces wrap around the building,
okay,
and how the parking lines go.
okay.
That's
So,
what I would expect to see in a site plan.
okay. Any other Concerns about site plan? If not, then why don't we scroll back up to the checklist? And then we have a site development plan.
Building development plan, we just did site. Is it
Oh,
building
I'm sorry,
development
I'm
plan?
sorry.
Program, excuse me.
Okay, so they have a building development plan?
It says it's described.
Yes, so it's not checked off here, so does that mean that it's not available?
No, excuse me, I don't know why these aren't checked. Maybe a error in
Okay, so it's
the
just,
application. They're all supposed to be checked.
okay, so the building development plan, can we see the building development plan?
They're not asking for this to be waived, right? Oh,
Right,
but
but
you're
I want,
saying we want to have
We
a
wanna see what they
packet to
provided.
understand what their building development is.
yeah,
Right.
I know this is a long process, but let's make sure that everyone understands what's
Is
required.
it described in the narrative? Is that what that's intended to mean?
This described in the narrative and in the parking plan.
Okay. So, I think that's pretty straightforward. Unless there's a question about that, why don't we move on to the phasing plan? Um, okay. Okay.
In this phasing plan, it would be helpful to understand the timeframes for each phase. Like time, amount of time, so how many months and weeks.
And so what I don't see on here, and maybe I'm missing it, is I don't see the part where they build the third floor.
It's on the sheets that are hand labeled current existing conditions and future conditions.
Right, but it's not in the phasing plan.
Oh, I see, yes.
So
Can
at
you
some
say that
point,
again, please, Diab?
I don't see the part where they actually pop up the third floor. It talks about finishing the work on the roof and then finishing the demo, but it doesn't say anywhere where they're going to work on the third floor. Okay. Visual plans. We do have we do not have the 3D or the eye-level perspective, but I do believe we have the ground floor architectural plan and the building elevations. But it would be good again to have the existing building elevations.
Yeah. So again, yes, the plans could indicate what the new walls are and the new portions of the building versus the existing. And in these current plans, I don't see that differentiation.
Well, and to that point, I Ching,
Well, I do actually. So in the legend, there are a new wall construction in really light gray, but perhaps a little bit more contrast would be helpful. It's hard to read because all the line weights of the furniture and stuff are as strong as the walls, and
one question I have on the elevations in I Ching, maybe you can help me articulate this, that the drawings usually would call out materials, but are they reciting the entire property?
right.
Is that what
Yeah,
they're doing?
that could be in the cover letter of the scope too, of how much siding are you reciting, and
And if they're not
material.
replacing all of it, are they gonna feather the hardy plank into the existing wood
Right.
clapboard? I doesn't.
Right, that is not clear.
Right.
Okay, but
That would be
that's,
more
yeah,
clear.
so let's just. The materials, existing materials and new materials need to be listed. And let's, yeah. So when we get to this visual plans, a 3D perspective, an eye level perspective, these are not required. So,
Why are these not required?
well, actually, number
I thought
3,
this
it
is
says,
the list of what's required.
it says the SPGA may require 3D models.
Oh,
So,
well, I don't know about a model, but certainly eye level perspective views and three-dimensional bird's eye.
oh, I'm
perspective
sorry.
views.
Yeah, sorry. When I think of model, I think of on the computer, but it's an actual physical model. So yeah,
Oh,
definitely don't
But
need
that's what
that.
it used to be in the old days. I don't
That's
know.
what it used to be in the old days. So, so the question before, I don't know if this is part of what the waiver is.
It
But
doesn't look like
No.
they're asking for a waiver, but I don't see the three-dimensional bird's eye perspective views and the eye level perspective views. I Ching, am I missing something?
You mean in a computer model?
No,
we
I'm not
don't-
in their packet.
In the packet? No,
yeah, the
there's
packet
nothing.
doesn't show perspective models.
Okay, so that's missing. And because of the importance of this building, it's as he noted, or maybe it was something you said, it's the first time as CBD special permit granting authority that it's come before us to make sufficient changes to the exterior of the historic building to require our approval.
No, no,
That's
this
not
is,
right?
so if I said I didn't, no, it's not the first time. We've had other buildings, prior to your being on the board. We had another building across the street on Church Street and then one on Shore Road.
Okay,
And currently there's one across the street at the cabinet store that's gonna add another level to their back. This seems to be similar in that they're adding another level to their back. And what we asked for from the other one, and they asked for a bunch of waivers too, was because just to see if we can see it from the public way, right? I mean, they're
Yeah.
adding to the back. So like, what can you see from Church Street on the sidewalk? I mean, you're not going to be able to go to the back of their building to see it. So I'm not sure why we would ask an applicant to make a model
well,
of
it's
something
visible,
that
it's
most of the
visible
public
from the
cannot see.
water field. I don't mean, I use the computer model is all it's saying. It's visible from the water field side. So showing like a perspective view. And in the case of the water field, they're looking at this building out their windows from the upper floors. And so,
Well,
I mean, maybe that's no concern of the town because it's inside someone's space.
I think they
don't
have to
know.
look at much uglier things from their windows. So
Oh, y'all, but maybe we don't.
so
Right.
does the board wish for 3D perspective models? Are number 3 and number 4 something the board wants
Can
to
we
see?
call them renderings instead of models? Because a model is either a highly manipulable
Okay.
electronic thing or it's a 3D physical thing.
Let's call them renderings.
So a
So,
rendering could be like a Google shot and then a fairly accurate look at in addition to the building sort of photoshopped into it.
Yes, yes.
so
Okay.
we want, so the board would like to see some perspective views of the new construction.
From the public way. I think we asked that of their neighbor across the
Right,
street.
right. So we want both number 3 and number 4.
Yeah, and they're not
Okay.
asking for a waiver. We just don't
Okay.
see it yet.
Okay, I was getting a little confused by the direction of the conversation.
Well,
So-
do you see where he says visual plans have been submitted? And I guess in response to that red statement is all the comments we just made.
Okay, so we're still looking for numbers 3 and number 4. Okay, so let's move on to traffic.
We're not
circulation.
looking for number 3. We're not looking for a bird's eye perspective. That's
Okay,
that's
we're-
like looking at a model from above.
Okay, so we're just looking for number 4.
Yeah.
Is the board all agreed that we're just looking for number 4?
Mhm.
Okay, great. Okay, let's move on to traffic circulation parking. I believe this is one of their waivers. Although they do have a circulation.
That is
from one
correct,
side.
but
Yeah,
it is a waiver, but it is also provided.
Okay, so at this point, why don't we see what it is they're asking to waive on this?
That would be helpful.
Would you like? Oh, sorry.
So this is a circulation plan.
How many
What a-
cars are expected to be parking here?
I see parking for two there. I
So
don't,
there's
I'm
two
sorry.
parking spaces under the building
yes,
total.
for this unit, it looks like there are
Yeah.
two.
So in response to this, well, to Sally's comments about this drawing in particular, I would like to know what is at the back of the building, if whether there is if it continues, if this existing driveway continues or what, because we are talking about circulation here. And then to the left here, I would like to see where the sidewalks are and where the curb cuts are and where the street is. I think that adds, where do the cars go, really?
Totally agree, I Ching, totally.
Yeah, I've walked past this place and I think it's a somewhat hidden driveway. So understanding how,
Yeah, this is
there's
drawing-
not a ton of new I mean, this is not going to add substantially to traffic,
Right.
but this is one where we would want to understand how the pedestrians are,
Right,
how they handle the safety there.
considering how narrow it is, Diab, to your point about pedestrians, I just don't have all the picture here.
So it seems
Yeah,
like
I
they
think-
already have a transportation plan, but they're asking for a waiver nevertheless. But we're saying, from what I'm hearing in this conversation, is that this would be sufficient if you added the end lines here, or the sidewalk and the end of the property and where this existing driveway goes.
Well, I think there's also a question of what are the sight lines for pedestrians, just so that they feel safe crossing in front of this.
Yeah, I
And-
don't even know where the well, there's one entry door there. And other than that, I don't know of any other entry doors into this building. So that's
Mm.
also to your pedestrian point, Diab.
I'm just worried about the cars in the driveway, to be honest. So, yeah.
Well, but you said also you're concerned about pedestrian safety, so I agree with you about that.
Yeah, my pedestrian safety was merely walking in front of the driveway. That was, but
Right. Or like add a mirror so that you can see something.
yeah,
Right.
something just so that we understand what the pedestrian view is.
And so what's deceiving about this drawing is that the car is located in the middle of the dimension, and it looks like it's a one-way driveway because it's centered, top to bottom. And it looks like it's a really difficult driveway to navigate as a two-way driveway.
I think that it's like any long single lane driveway, you're going to have to make peace with your neighbors. As
Oh,
to
I
how-
see. Oh, okay. So yes, and you do all your turning around in the back, but
you do all your turning around in the wider part. Yeah,
yeah, and you exit or enter onto Church Street.
that is the only entrance to this lot.
Okay.
Okay, so back to the waivers then, we're saying no waiver on this, but just
Well,
include
let's-
extra things.
So
let's
let's
try
look
to
at the
understand.
description again.
There's a transportation management part of that, which I think is a little, transportation demand management plan. I don't think we need that.
Right, but proposed locations and alignments of drives, drop-offs, curb cuts, parking signage, pedestrian paths, sidewalks, bike paths, and easements. Absolutely, that's what we're talking about, wanting to see. And
Right, so-
yeah, I don't know about number two, because it's not
The
that,
specific reason this was asked for a waiver was more so, can this be included in the site plan? If this information was included in the site plan, could this particular section of demand management plan be waived? I think that we can say we still need more information, but the specific reason why this has been asked for a waiver, again, is because if all of the information that you were asking for is included in the site plan, if this particular section can't be waived.
except for anticipated traffic demand and flows.
Yeah, but that's.
And that's the
tiny.
only waiver they're asking for.
Yeah, because we've already seen that one, the one with the cars moving in and out is already a traffic and circulation plan. It's not, is that what
No,
we're,
that's not a circulation plan.
Why isn't it?
Because it shows the cars only going in. And that's why I was asking all my annoying questions
Okay,
about
well,
the
they-
driveway only being 1 lane wide.
well, they have to go out the same way, so.
Yeah, all right. But the big thing is we're not asking them to do a traffic demand management plan. Is that right?
Right,
Yeah.
and it can be included in the site plan.
Yeah.
And
Although-
to Brian Mantor's point, the site plan from 2014 needs to be updated,
Yes.
right? Because there is an existing one story that has been raised that is in the 2014 site plan. So it's
but-
not updated.
So that's actually the survey plan, not the site plan,
Oh,
right?
see.
So that, I just want to make, we're
Thank you.
kind of moving
Thank
back
you.
and forth using the same words. So the question I have is, if we look at we just looked at a plan with little pictures of cars on it, and from my mind, that is sufficient if with the addition of the things we talked about, the pedestrian locations and such like that. So,
Yeah, everything that's in parentheses #1, after the semicolon.
yeah, I think it's all there. I don't know that we have to waive anything if it's already there. It's that page, just with more info.
Yeah, and they haven't provided it yet.
Yeah, but I think that's sufficient in my mind to accomplish what this thing is calling for.
yes.
Which
Right.
means they don't need a waiver.
They don't need a waiver. They're 99, no, well, say
Yeah.
90% of the way to it. So I
Right.
don't, okay, so let's go down to open space conservation lands, national resources plan. I think that,
Is that supposed to be the same as the other one above?
no, what do you mean?
Well, it's the exact same language in the previous checkbox.
I guess. I don't understand that.
Taylor, is that right?
That may be an error. I'm not,
Is this coming from the zoning bylaw?
this is, yeah.
Well, I think in
Yeah.
my mind, there's no need for any of these plans because there's nothing really changing on the property. The open space plan is merely, we need a recording of what the various percentages of open space are. That's what we require of every survey. So that would be just telling us how much of the lot is covered by buildings, how much of it is covered by impervious, and the rest is all the green space. So I think that's all that's required for this. Is there any discussion on that?
Do we vote? I mean, as it is currently 9:45,
Well, we
or
need
do we
to,
do a continuation?
can we just finish this? We're almost done.
Yeah.
I would like to see this done.
7316 is the
All right, so
submission.
it's informal, so we don't need the open space, is what we're deciding.
I think that there's no point to it
Okay.
because, yeah, I think we can
Space.
just say that. So we're going to waive, well, I'll just write down waive. I see what you mean by vote. So what's the number on this one, Taylor? What is
There's no numbers.
no, I'm
There's no
trying to ask,
numbers.
isn't there a 713 something or other?
Well,
Oh,
I'm
for
looking
the
at
7316.
Right, but-
It's 7316.
Right,
Right.
but what
and
I'm
so-
confused about is that I pointed out that we had duplicate language in your checklist. And 73168 is what you have. 73169 is different language for open space, conservation lands and natural. I'm not saying that they need to show that because they don't have any, but just that I was confused by your memo and that was where
Right,
I was
so-
going.
So 73169, is that the one?
The one that is open space conservation and natural resources, showing location of open space, conservation lands and natural resources in
Okay,
describing
so
plans
why
to
don't
add
we,
change.
I would welcome a motion to waive 73169.
Okay, I move that.
Is there a second?
In other words, they don't have to do this.
Right, because it doesn't make any
Be
sense.
considered to have the package be considered complete. Right,
That's,
that's what I
so-
moved.
is there a second?
Second.
Okay, so all in favor, I Ching,
Aye.
Carrie,
I,
Nick,
Aye.
Sally,
Aye.
and I say aye as well. Okay, let's move on to the next one, which is Historic Conservation and Preservation Plan. So they have, something which I believe that what I would suggest doing this is to, I would like to see what historic says about this in terms of its completeness. And so
Yeah,
they
I
do
mean,
have,
to me,
they
a
do,
preservation plan includes a whole lot of stuff. Not just generally what we plan to do, but more detail.
yeah, so I would say, you know, so they're not asking for a waiver on this, and a question of whether or not this is sufficient, I think is something I would like historic to weigh in on. So I think we can, we're gonna have a,
is this letter current from the Historic Commission? Wait, like,
no, it's
saying
No,
not.
it's from 2015.
It's
oh,
for a
sorry.
separate project, yeah. So what I recommend on this one is that since there will be a pre-application meeting with historic, that this is where they can come in and make recommendations on how to improve this plan. So it is an existing, they do have it, it's part of their packet. And I would suggest we just go on the condition that historic will make sure that this is sufficient for their purposes.
And I would just add that I did take about 10 minutes today to look up what is generally considered the essential elements of a particular building's historic conservation and preservation plan. And there is information out there about that. I just did not have the time. I was interrupted and never got back to it to look at it. But the Historical Commission will know all about what a historic
Right.
conservation and preservation plan should include.
Yep. And so that's why I would like to leave the discussion of this to them, just to note that it is part of the packet. And so let's go on to the utilities plan. And this is where, is Brian still with us? Brian is still with us. Brian,
Yes.
you want to weigh in on the need for a utilities plan?
Yeah, so I think when we think about this utilities plan, there might be two ways of thinking about it. On one hand, we've got what I'd call the simple utilities plan, like water, sewer, connections. And I don't think that they're proposing on doing any new water and sewer connections. So I wouldn't say that they need to show those utilities on a site plan or in a utilities plan. However, I think the letter of the law here is talking about rooftop equipment and HVAC items, which is a little bit outside my area of expertise. But it may be good that the applicant describe a little bit further what their plans are for HVAC and how if they're gonna do any upgrades to their systems for this project. And namely, and additionally show where that equipment will be housed.
Yeah,
I do want to note that there is one on page 131, you have a written description of 4 new HVAC units, I believe condensers here.
wait, this is,
Where existing ones are, they're just being replaced with new ones. You see here on the plan, I know it's small. You can see AC, and then you have
could you zoom
new
in, please?
units. I'll try.
So
Hopefully that's big
is
enough.
that on the ground?
Yeah, there's a problem with this because it looks like they're in the middle of their driveway.
Well, is this a existing one-story building to be God, I'm so confused by this site.
So I think that we need to have a better indication of where those AC units are. Because they certainly can't be right there. They've got to be closer to the building.
Yeah, and that might be covered if a site plan, an existing and proposed site plan were to be developed. I think that would be something that you would typically show on the proposed conditions.
Okay, so you're okay if we were, or your suggestion is that we just have the HVAC more correctly labeled on the site plan so that it's actually where it is.
Labeled and drawn incorrectly.
Yes, yes, okay. So with that, does the board consider that sufficient? And that we could, if with that condition,
So it makes me ask the question, I don't actually know if there's above ground or below ground power lines going to this building. Do you, Brian?
Don't know, but we can, I would say it's all below ground because I'm looking at a Google map right now and of Street View, and there's no overhead power. So it'll all be below ground here.
So since nothing's changing under the ground, then it would be an indication that we could waive this submission requirement with the exception that they show exactly where the new HVAC units are, how big they'll be, and where they're going, right? And they would appear on the elevations and the plans of the building.
yeah.
I think that's a fair statement.
Okay, so let's put that as a condition on the waiver. So what section are we at right now?
Utilities plan.
Yeah, let me get the actual, if we're gonna vote on it, we need a number.
7/3/16/11.
Okay, so we're gonna waive 7/3/16/11 with a condition that HVAC units be shown will be shown on the existing conditions plan and the new plan to scale and in their actual positions.
Right, and also the new elevation on that side of the building.
Okay, so so it's the existing condition and the new and elevation. Okay.
Right.
Hopefully you got all that, Nancy. Is there a motion to that?
Yes, I move that.
And is there a second?
I second.
Okay, roll call vote then. Nick,
Aye.
Carrie,
Aye.
Sally,
Aye.
I Ching,
Aye.
and I say aye as well. Okay, so now let's get to stormwater management. We go to Brian on this one.
Thank you. So, I think we could determine if a waiver could be made based upon a review of their existing and proposed site plan. And then from there, the engineering department can determine, in fact, if there is no increase in impervious surface triggering stormwater management. Additionally, typically when you do a site plan, it would show drainage topography where you can determine drainage patterns and things. I don't anticipate that there would be any change in drainage patterns, but I think it would be good to demonstrate or to show that on a plan, and then we could, based on that review, we could make a recommendation to waive the letter of the law here.
So you would be looking for a drainage plan, but not
Well, it would just be the site plan, which would show spot elevations or topography lines. That's what you typically see on a site plan. So, if they were to put together an existing and proposed site plan as the board is discussing, the engineering department could review that and say that we're satisfied with this, and that would address the drainage pattern, that they wouldn't have to specifically speak to it, but that we could make the determination based on the information provided. And then with respect to the compensatory storage, they're not in a floodplain or in a flood hazard area, so we could waive that requirement.
So why don't we?
Yep, can I add to what he said? Because it's along the exact same line, but that they would show if there are any storm drains on the property and if there are any storm drains in the public way in front of the property.
But if they're in the public way,
Well, so the place has been there forever. Well, not
right,
forever.
I'm just, if it's in the public way, isn't that the town's business?
Right. But they're saying that they're depending on that public storm drain to take the water off the driveway into the storm drains. If there's no drain on their property, that's what I would like to know. What Brian said, that,
Okay, so,
There's-
let's,
or maybe
Well-
Brian didn't say that.
I don't know, what I was gonna offer language to the extent that we follow, that we will vote to follow the recommendations of the engineering department as to whether as 7/3/16/12 is waived. And that way we can vote on it tonight, and whatever engineering department says, we'll say, okay, that's fine, we've already voted
Right.
the,
Yeah.
okay. So
Great idea.
the motion would be to follow on for 7/3/16/12, follow the engineering department's recommendations as to waiving stormwater management and flood mitigation. Okay, so that's the motion. Is there someone to move that?
So moved.
And is there a second?
Second.
Okay, great. So roll call vote. Carrie,
Aye.
Sally,
Aye.
Nick,
Aye.
I Ching,
Aye.
and I say aye as well. Okay, so now we get to landscaping plan. So the landscaping plan is, there's no change being made to the landscaping. We sort of have on one of the drawings shows sort of where the vegetated part of the property is. So, how does the board feel about the landscaping plan? I mean, I
Is
don't
it
know
like
if
the
that,
waiver for parking and circulation where it could be incorporated into the site plan?
yeah, I guess if they're not changing any of the plants, if they're not doing anything to landscaping, is it sufficient for them to simply say, we're not changing the landscaping?
Right. I wonder if, there might be a request in the review of it to ask for changes because of their, because of their request for a special permit, or that they would, do a native planting or something like that.
It's
No.
not a special permit. This is a by right project.
The only thing I would like to see is where it says existing planting bed continuous. It would be nice to know what's planted there. An existing planting bed continuous. I mean, especially along the street, it would be nice to know what's in there.
Well, you can
Typically,
barely,
people identify plants. They'll say 2 pine trees or 3 maple trees, and they're even more specific than that.
okay, I mean, just to be, this thing is, I think, 2 feet across, maybe.
I
If
get
you-
what you're saying, Deb. I do think that it is
Yeah.
kind of
Okay.
onerous.
I
It's
get the-
really, it's really narrow. I mean, it's in terms of, yeah, so I would recommend that we waive whatever the heck that number is. 7/3/16/13.
I'm gonna look it up. I was there a minute ago.
I got it right in front of me. 7/3/16/13.
Okay. Which,
Um,
I'm gonna make a note.
I'll make that motion.
okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call vote. Carrie,
Aye.
Sally,
I,
Nick,
Aye.
I Ching,
Aye.
and I say aye as well. Okay, so we're gonna waive 7/3/16/13. Housing,
am.
I think we need to,
Isn't that in the program?
No, it says no changes are being made, but I don't know what that means because they're actually putting housing in.
Yeah, it's in the program document. I just lost it.
Oh,
on-
you mean not, when you say program, you mean the overview?
Well, no, not the petition narrative. There was this building development program.
Oh, the phasing document?
Oh, it looks like this. It says paragraph like that.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm having got too many windows open here, sorry.
Oh, they're talking about the number of windows. Yeah, no, it
No,
would
no,
be.
no, no,
good to
no, nothing.
understand-
No, I have too many windows.
Right, this building development program document does not describe what I thought it did, which is the number of units and how many bedrooms. Um.
Right.
Yes,
So the actual wording on the housing plan is size, number, approximate price expressly stated in order to determine if the proposed housing portion meets the goals of the Winchester Master Plan, which aims to provide a diversity of housing types. So I think that's an easy ask. So I don't recommend waiving this. I
I
wouldn't. waive
agree.
it.
Move on.
So do we have, let's vote on that request.
Just for clarification, they're not asking for a waiver.
It says no changes are being made.
Right, but though they are not asking for a waiver
Right,
on
so
this.
they're
they're gonna
not-
So we can
document.
say it's not sufficient, but they're not asking for a waiver.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I thought no changes being made implies they were asking for a waiver, but I can't read. So I apologize. I can't read. So,
Well, you are reasonable to say that because up above, a waiver is being requested since no change is being made, but in
yeah,
this
it
case.
says- okay, so we don't have to, I think we've all agreed that we need to have that information, so that should be included. So what have we, let's let down there. We've talked about traffic circulation. We don't think they need a waiver because they're 90% of the way there. We just want to see sidewalks. We want to see boundaries and neighboring properties on that, on the site plan. We think the site plan can accommodate that. We've waived the open space because there's no point. The utilities plan, we've waived with a condition that they put the HVAC on their plans, existing and new HVAC, both to scale and in the correct place. We have waived the we have deferred to the engineering department as to whether a waiver is necessary for stormwater management, and we have waived the landscaping plan. So I think we've worked through all of the issues here. Oh, we did say that, yeah, and then we were going to have a meeting to talk about the historic pre-application meeting. Will review the historic restoration and preservation plan, whatever it's called, to see that it meets their requirements. And I don't know that I think we've moved through this all, I believe.
Yep.
Well, the one last thing is just for clarification is that the submitter has requested a waiver for the plumbing permit, if you recall.
What's that mean?
So the problem,
So
okay,
yeah,
so
go ahead.
so the plumbing permit, so the problem is that they'd like to go ahead with some internal work on the plumbing, but they can't do so because the overall permit, they don't have a building permit. They just have a demo permit and a roofing permit. And so the problem is that they have to build a third floor. And so until that goes through review, until the permit is approved for the third floor, I don't know how they can work on plumbing.
And for clarification, there is no plumbing in the third floor. Plumbing is in the existing structure, not in the third floor.
Okay.
I'm sorry, there's no plumbing in the third floor of the building?
Is a
No.
closet.
Okay, I'll look at that
Okay.
again.
So that is actually something I have no idea how to move forward on because they would need to submit a separate permit for the application for the plumbing.
I don't think we have jurisdiction.
Well, the building department's holding up the plumbing permit because this part of it hasn't moved through. And I think it's in part because there's a third floor being added in the back of the mansard roof, so they can't work on that permit until it's gone through this process. So there are two questions I
A
have.
raised hand, Diab.
Oh, thank you. Go ahead, please. I think you should be able to unmute yourself. Go ahead.
It's a small clarification. A third floor addition, it's approximately 520 square feet. And that's going to be only a closet, walk-in closet for the third floor, one of the bedrooms, master bedrooms. The third floor already has plumbing along with second and the first floor. We applied for the permit, the plumber, and paid for the permit. And they said they need your clarification until you can do your review. But plumber can work on existing same plumbing, which has nothing to do with that addition of the third floor bedroom closet, 500 square feet addition.
Okay, so
There's
So
no
why is the
plumbing
building
whatsoever.
department, is the building department holding up something that you don't need? I'm confused.
I think we need to understand, I don't know what the building department's concerns are. So why don't I will contact the building department and understand what their concerns are. And then I think, I don't know what the legal requirements are for pulling a plumbing permit separate from any other permit. So
Electrical already been issued, electrical permit.
an electrical permit's already been issued, but not a plumbing permit? Okay.
Yeah, that seems bizarre.
Correct.
So let me, so that's obviously, I don't understand that process. So Taylor and I will contact the building department to understand what is special about plumbing.
Nothing, because it's the same thing as the electrical. Because
Well, they think it's special, or else they would have given it to you. So there's something in their mind which sets plumbing apart from electric, which.
I
So,
just want to make clear that addition of the third floor has no plumbing at all in there. And
Okay.
that's
okay, so we will contact the building department and figure out the way forward on that.
Thank you.
And I don't know that it needs to come back to this board to discuss what's happening with that. If electric's already been issued, then I don't know why plumbing wouldn't, but I'm ignorant of these things. Okay, so I think we're done. Unless there is some other subject on this, I think we do have a path forward. Taylor and I will be meeting with Jacqueline Menage of Historic to discuss the pre-application meeting. I believe this is going to, and then we'll, as soon as if we can get this application, if all of the things that we've addressed tonight are addressed rather, then I think we can move forward. Okay, with that, I appreciate the Kovlakins for sticking with us this long amount of time. I'd like to thank viewer user who has remained anonymous throughout this whole program. But let us, can we get a motion to adjourn?
I'd like to thank Nancy Polcari for taking great minutes, and I would
Oh,
like to
yes.
make a motion to adjourn.
And I second the thanks for Nancy.
You can second that, but you can't second the motion to adjourn.
I
I'll
can't,
second
but
that.
will you?
Yes, I will.
Okay, roll call vote, please. Nick,
Aye.
Carrie,
Hi.
Sally,
Aye.
and Ching.
Aye.
Okay, we are adjourned. Thanks very much to WinCam. Thanks to Recording Secretary Nancy Polcari, Brian Manter, Assistant Town Engineer, Taylor Herman, Town Planner. Who else am I thanking? Richard Leaf, our liaison from the Chamber of Commerce. Good to see you back. And thanks to everyone out in TV land. We will see you in 2 weeks.
Good night.
Night.